want to get right to this, what has become the main topic of the show today. I haven't heard anyone else talking about it. It hasn't hit the mainstream. Don't know if it will. But one of our oil tankers, our Navy oil tankers, has run ashore in Oman. And this was supporting our aircraft carrier, the Abraham Lincoln, in the Middle East. And that's the only one there. We have no other oiler. So they're talking about getting a commercial oil tanker. But we've had all these people call in from the Navy who used to work on these oilers being like, that's not a thing. You can't just do that. It's a whole different ball game. And the Department of Defense, or someone in the Department of Defense said if we're ever in a real war with China, or the Pacific, we would need 100 of these oilers. And we have fewer than 10. And one of them is now run ashore in Oman. What is happening here, Dr. Gorka?
It's a continuation of what we've witnessed for the last 4 years. I mean, just look at story after story after story. From, the bridge that was built by the U.S. Navy for the Gazans, which literally washed away a few weeks later, to everything concerning the surrender of Afghanistan and having the Secretary of Defense say after 13 of our warfighters were murdered that day, scores were maimed by the ISIS suicide bomber, saying under sworn testimony in Congress, I have no regrets. Or to have Kamala Harris, who is the candidate to become the commander-in-chief for the Democrats, proudly saying on camera, with regards to that fiasco, which is probably the worst military disaster since 1974, saying, I'm proud I was the last person in the room when the administration decided to give over that nation back to the Taliban. We are a nation being run by people who hate America and hate our military, whether it's changing the name of Fort Bragg to Fort Liberty, or whether it's not even, I mean, look at this insane rant by Biden yesterday at the United Nations, where he says, I think about those 13 from Afghanistan every stinking day. He's never even mentioned their names. And I've had various of the Gold Star mothers and fathers of the 13 from the Abbey Gate massacre. They were never called up. They received, in the last 3 years after their children were murdered, they received, each of them, a pro forma letter 1 year after they were killed. Whether it's Biden looking at his watch half a dozen times during the solemn transfer, whether it's Lloyd Austin saying, I'm proud of what we did, or whether it's our bridges, our pontoon piers washing away, these people are they are a threat. They are the threat to our security. Not the enemies out there, they are the threat.
I want to get back to the ship in a second, but you said something provocative, that they hate America.
Yep.
And I want to expand on this because I told the story when I first got into politics. It was 2003. It was the Iraq War. And I distinctly remember listening to Janine Garofalo. Now, I know she's, not a foremost expert, whatever. I think she was like stereotypical of the progressive worldview back then and still today. And it was right in the beginning of Iraq, and she regretted that we are the world superpower. And I specifically remember, this is like a pivotal moment in my political awakening, was I don't want America to be the best. I don't want America to be the world leader at all. I distinctly remember that. And I think that mindset will lead you to make different choices, whether actively or subconsciously, that result in X, like not having ships, right? Is that too dramatic of a
No. This is, when I realized that the original taxonomy of Republican versus Democrat or conservative versus liberal is defunct. It is irrelevant. The only dividing line between Americans today is whether they love America and think it's the greatest nation on God's green earth, or whether they hate it and think it's the problem. I mean, this isn't hyperbole or conservative commentary. You've got to listen to what these people say. And whether it's her, whether it's a Hollywood loony, or whether it's the people in power, the fact that think of this: you have Mark Milley, who should be in Fort Leavenworth for the rest of his life for what he did to betray President Trump and work with the Chinese military. That man says what? I mean, a fat disgrace to the U.S. Army says, I don't know what critical race theory is, but I think it's good it's being taught at West Point because I need to know about white rage and I'm white. What person says that? The only kind of person who says that is a person who believes, the 1619 Project, America was built on racism. If you're white, you're bad. If you're black, you're the oppressed. These people hate our nation. And as a result, every action they take, whether conscious or subconscious, is about undermining America's pivotal position in the world as the greatest nation, as the beacon, as the shining city on a hill. What other administration can justify sending literally billions of dollars to our sworn enemy, Iran? I mean, you can't do that unless you hate this nation. So no, this is Garofalo's Hollywood virtue signaling is now running the National Security Council, the Pentagon, and the intelligence community.
The clip we played last week of the guy, let me just play it again, because this is maybe the 7th time we played it, and there's 40 more days, so I don't know how many more times I will play it, but a lot.
But Kamala Harris would be just the opposite.
This is a retired general, and I'll tell you his name in a second.
No, I know.
Why? Because she's an inspiration. Not only is she positive, and does she bring hope and optimism, but as a black woman, the product of a mixed marriage, she will inspire millions of people throughout the world. Our credibility as a nation, that we would be able to allow, our country is so great that we're allowed a woman like that to become the commander-in-chief, the president of the United States. That is going to send a powerful message all over the world. People like Vladimir Putin are going to say, hey, wait a minute. These guys, they truly have a democratic country. They truly are representative. They truly are fighting for all their people. And Kamala Harris is a manifestation of that.
Okay, so once I got over the ghastness of that, and maybe I haven't fully gotten over it, I learned that is retired U.S. Army Brigadier General Stephen Anderson.
Yeah.
And it really hit that guy was in charge. That's not Janine Garofalo.
No.
Same mentality,
he had a
same
career in
worldview.
Logistics, and he's a ballless cuckold. I mean, when I first heard that, I mean, that is not a man. That is a eunuch, and he castrated himself with those words. Anybody, I mean, a private first class who understands anything about war and the people who wish to kill us wouldn't say that. A specialist wouldn't say that. But a one-star brigadier, the idea that because she's black and a woman, murderous KGB thugs like Putin will say, oh, in that case, I won't invade Ukraine. Or Xi Jinping, the head of the biggest communist dictatorship in the world, will say, oh, she can do a ghetto voice when she's in Harlem, and then she can do another voice when she's in Georgia. Equity, inclusion, diversity, I won't threaten Taiwan anymore. I mean, that clip is it. That clip is it.
That really is.
Yeah,
that clip's everything. That guy's been in charge for a long time. And you look around, you're like, well, what's the fruit of that? Well, I don't know. Oilers crashing into the shores of Oman, and we have none left.
Right.
Like I think that's it. I think among other examples as well. But I mean, do we like John Joseph Mearsheimer from University of Chicago?
He's not the one who has issues with Israel, is he? Is he the one who says Israel's the problem? Is that him?
I haven't heard I haven't heard that.
Okay.
He's a buddy of mine who may or may not be. He may be an unwilling deep state guy, but he doesn't know that he sent me this website. It's an AI version of John Mearsheimer. like the political scientist guy, and you can ask questions and it'll like tell you back what John Mearsheimer thinks about global conflicts or whatever. And I wasn't sure if this is a guy that we should.
Oh, he is. He's kind of what do you call it? Cloaked anti-Semite. He's the guy who says Israel is the problem in the Middle East. But carry on.
Okay, no.
He's the Mr. Israel lobby is running everything guy.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, yeah, so that's why I asked. I didn't know. I have nothing more to carry on. I had nowhere to go. There's nowhere to carry. In my 1 second of research, it's that one of his political philosophies is this like great power idea that great powers will further their power to maintain their security. Mm-hmm. Offensive realism is the name of that worldview or whatever. And I guess my buddy said one of the questions he asked this AI is, knowing that, what moves would should we make in the Pacific to best contain China? That's the big picture question. Because I know we talk a lot about us and China, but what does that mean though, us and India, or us and all the other countries around China? And the reason I bring this up, to bring it back to the ships, is we don't make our ships anymore.
Right.
We talked to Tim Sheehy, former Navy SEAL in Montana. We make them in South Korea.
Yeah.
And that sounds like a really bad idea. Yep. The potential wars against China.
Look, it's very easy what we do, and you don't need AI, you don't need anti-Semites like Mearsheimer. I was often asked, when I was in the White House, so what's your boss's vision? What's his doctrine? And I just spent 2.5 years teaching the Marine Corps in Quantico, and I stole what the Marines say: no better friend, no worse enemy. Look, I spent almost 30 years in academia, right? And the world is not IR theory, the prisoner's dilemma and neo-realist and blah, blah, blah. It's garbage. Okay, the world is not a petri dish. Everything you need to know about war was written by Thucydides and Sun Tzu thousands of years ago. War is only about 3 things. It's about prestige, honor, and fear. That's all you need to know. Clausewitz tried to turn it into something more systematic. He was wrong because he ignored the role of emotion and the rational behavior of man. Man is not a machine. Man is not logical. Man is a human being. And so, Clausewitz's attempt was artifice. As a smart guy, some of the things he said about war is, simple but hard to do, and the fog of war and friction are great, but the system he tried to impose, the logical system of the Trinity that he tried to impose in warfare, misses out that humans are human. So with regards to what you have to do, it's very easy. You have to do what we did. Why did we have no new wars for 4 years? Because bad guys were afraid of us, and because our friends were reassured and were treated like friends.